All right, well, I wanted to get things started with the last unit here. For the last unit, we won't have a discussion board here because we just have a couple weeks left. What I'm going to ask that you do is we're going to talk about personality, Chapter 12, psychological disorders, Chapter 14, and therapy, Chapter 15. And what I'm basically going to do is kind of cover some material from the book here. You're going to be asked to write basically a detailed outline using some of the acoustic comments, but I will be looking for more information from the book. This is not necessarily my area of expertise, although I have had some experience with psychiatric disorders and therapy and treatment and the like as well. So feel free to add information from the book, and we're going to start off, and then at the end of this, you'll be given actually a case situation, and I'm going to ask you to make a diagnosis. You can send me a draft on what you think it is and why, and then talk about two of the approaches you might use for therapy, actually three of the therapeutic approaches, and then maybe a psychiatric approach as well to things. And detailed outlines and stories and so forth will be the way. So we'll start off with the idea of Sigmund Freud. I don't know, that isn't a very good picture of him on 424. If you have your book, this would be useful. The three main constructs of Sigmund Freud. He really thought that the idea was that the mind was really constructed out of the id, the ego, and the superego. The id was kind of the unconscious mind, and according to Freud, the unconscious mind was one of the main constructs that really dominated how we act. And there were two main parts of the id. There's the pleasure principle that it talks about, and then there's kind of the, it's actually called the eros, the need for love, and the thanatos, the need for aggression and or sex. So eros and thanatos were kind of the ideas behind things according to Freud. And the reason for his ideas being so strong in this way is he was living during the world wars and saw all sorts of death and dying, and really thought sex was also a major id impulse. Now, on the other side of the equation, we have the superego. That's kind of the conscience and morality, the right thing, the wrong thing to do. And the id is in the unconscious mind. The superego is also unconscious. In the reality, we kind of have the ego. And the goal of the ego is to kind of satisfy the impulses of the id, the sex, the drive for sex, eros and thanatos, aggression and death, and still satisfying the superego. So it was kind of in between that. So you should know the structure of personality, the constructs, and the structure. As far as the methods for getting into the unconscious mind, he had a few different methods. One of them was basically to look at defense mechanisms. If you walk up to somebody and say, for example, well, actually it wasn't the defense mechanisms, the way to look into the unconscious mind. Free association was one of the main ones. The idea behind free association is you let people just say what's on their mind and talk about mom and dad, and they're laying on a couch, and you share ideas, and if they have a block that could suggest something. Freudian slips, excuse me, I don't think we've been properly seduced, I mean introduced, would be an idea. Free association, the idea is to uncover the unconscious mind. So that's what a Freudian psychologist doing psychoanalysis would do. As far as personality development, Freud thought that all of these things were tied to psychosexual ideas. You go through the oral stage where you're sucking, biting, and chewing on things. Freud thought you were trying to satisfy your sexual instincts by doing this. Bowel movements, it changes to the pleasure centers, focusing on that. The phallic stage, the idea of the Oedipus complex, where in Greek legend the little boy falls in love with his mother but wants to have sex with her, realizes that he can't, so he starts to identify with his father and behave like that. Unfortunately, in terms of personality development, psychosexual development really doesn't have much relevance anymore. There doesn't seem to be too much proof for any of these ideas. You could certainly get fixated orally or anally, and that could be a problem for people. More relevant maybe are the defense mechanisms, which he talks about. You should kind of share maybe an outline of 2 or 3 of these things. the basic idea, regression, if you get really, really anxious about things, you might start biting on a pen, chewing on things, that you're kind of getting fixated on doing oral behaviors. Reaction formation. Some people have argued that if you speak out strongly against homosexuality, maybe the reason you speak out so strongly against it is because you're having homosexual instincts yourself, and you're speaking out to kind of calm that down. Rationalization. You basically give, somebody says, why are you going out drinking all the time? You say, I'm just doing that to be social. You're providing rationalization. Denial. You're just denying that there's a problem going on. Displacement. Maybe a lot of football players going through displacement. You have sexual, aggressive impulses, and you just project that, you displace that into another object, and you kick something, or you play football. Projection is where you feel you're a certain way, you're angry and aggressive, and you accuse somebody else. So try to map this out, write out some details of this, and that's kind of the defense mechanisms. So in terms of personality, just a little bit maybe more about the history and the legacy of this. Before Freud, it was thought that your mind was occupied if you had a psychoanalytic or you had a psychiatric disorder, that there were basically the devil was inside your mind. It was spiritual, the devil, you were demonic possession. So Freud really was an innovator because he brought the ideas of maybe this could be considered a psychiatric disorder into relevance here, that it's not just demons possessing your mind. So he really brought it into the forefront that psychiatric disorders and personality could be thought of in a scientific way. The legacy is he started it all off. And so a lot of people came after him who thought differently than him, but he was really the beginning person on this. Some of his ideas we don't have too much relevance for anymore, but some of the defense mechanisms we certainly do, so we give him a lot of credit on that front. So that'll conclude the first lecture. Thanks. Bye-bye.